Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Baseball Adjacent. My name's Taco Josh. That right there is America's pitching coach. It is Justin Arth, and today we are doing a very interesting video. We're kind of breaking this into two parts. The first part is going to be the American League. This is going to be American League only. I would like to stress that very much before commenters are hate commenting, where are the Padres? It's coming. Give it a minute. This is going to be every team's most important player down the stretch. Obviously, that means for contending teams, the guys that it's going to be important that they perform to make it maybe into the playoffs, or if you're a sure shot for the playoffs, to make a deep run. If your team is not as with it and is actually, some would say, bad, which is a technical term in baseball for being not very good, we're going to choose different guys, maybe that need to boost their trade stock for the offseason to bring people in, or just prospects that we would like to see develop or finish the season strong. However it is we interpret it. Here's the way this is going to work if you just want to see your team. All of the timestamps, because we're going to do this by division, are going to be in the description. So if your team, say, is the Guardians, and you only want to hear us talk about the Guardians for a couple of minutes, you can go and find the AL Central thing, and then somewhere in that like 10 or 15 minutes that we're talking about that, you can just click and hear your Guardians talk. Same with like the Royals or whatever. But like and subscribe if you guys do enjoy. We just got to 20 subscribers, so that's super sick. Justin, how are we feeling today?
I'm feeling pretty good. It's time to talk about teams, and like you said, like some of these teams will be mentioning some players that maybe are I don't know, like guys that could be traded in the offseason that need to build some trade stock. And obviously for teams in the playoff hunt, like teams that really need or players that really need to perform well for the teams to go deep in the postseason. So I'm excited to get talking about it.
Yeah, we are going to start with the American League East, and I think we're just going to work east to west. We're also going to go from top to bottom by division. So our first team is going to be the Toronto Blue Jays, who are 69 and 50. They have the best record as we record this in the American League. They are over the Boston Red Sox by a very healthy 4.5 games. Uh, they have overperformed, I think, what we've thought. I think my answer is going to be boring and kind of chalk, I guess, but I have to go Vladdy. I think this team goes as Vladdy goes. He's been their best, arguably, player this year. And you have had a lot of guys overperform, but I would almost argue that Vladdy has kind of underperformed. Kind of the expectations post signing that deal. Now he has something like an 880 OPS at time of recording, which isn't bad. It's actually quite good, but I think if he could take that down the stretch to get it into the nines, you're looking at the Blue Jays being a legitimate World Series contender more than just like, hey, we're overperforming and we're here. I think if Vlad really shows up and they're really rocking along, that would be the guy. That's the difference maker. If he's hitting well, I think the team does well. If he's not and he goes cold, I think it's over. I don't think
Yeah.
that they have the bats to recover necessarily. I guess I should also mention this would be a great episode for all of you that are fans of individual teams to comment who you think is the most important player on your team, because you are going to have probably a vastly different take than we do, because we watch a lot of baseball, but we're not able to actually watch your team every single night, likely, unless your team name is the Braves or the Rangers. Let's move on to Boston. They are second place. They're 4.5 out of, they're behind Toronto by 4.5 games. They are in a wild card spot as we speak. There was talks of Duran getting traded. That never happened. Now they're kind of here, and they kind of have like World Series vibes happening. They got the weird plane thing in the dugout. Justin, who's your pick for Boston?
Yeah, so Boston's had kind of a weird season where you thought they were done and they were trading Duran. I mean, they traded Devers. Obviously, some of that, the drama we've talked about on it, like a ton on this channel. But they're still here, they're still balling, and they have a playoff spot as of right now. And whenever a team gets to the playoffs, what wins you playoff series and what eventually wins you World Series? Pitching. And I think that's still the biggest question for this team behind Crochet. So obviously, the most important guy is obviously Garrett Crochet. But I'm going to choose a guy that needs to step up a bit, and I'm going to go Walker Bueller. Walker Bueller is a guy that we've seen playoff success from him with the Dodgers. He's not had a great season at all. The win-loss record's not bad, but the ERA is pretty bad. A negative .9 ERA, which is not good at all. You still have the impending club option that could make him a free agent at the end of the year as well. So the Red Sox need to make the decision on that. Giolito's been good. Brian Bayo's been better than we've seen in years past. And then Garrett Crochet's there. So yeah, you've got three guys that you could trust in like the earlier rounds. But Walker Bueller's really got to start stepping up to get above a Hunter Dobbins or a Richard Fitz or anybody else in that potential playoff rotation. And Walker Bueller could be an X factor come postseason if he's on like we saw last year in the Dodgers postseason.
Yeah, I think I would agree. The pitching for them is going to be important. I think Walker Bueller does need to step up. My thought on that, if I was going the pitcher route, was going to be Dustin May. You just got him from the Dodgers at the deadline. Same everything you just said, but about Dustin May,
Yeah.
basically. If I was going to pick a hitter, I it has to be Bregman, right? Like just has to be. I expect for him to carry this team. Every team needs pitching, obviously, but you also need a bona fide bat. And Bregman on a team that is pretty young as a whole, if you really, really look at it, there's not a lot of playoff experience. There's not a lot of experience down a meaningful, like, final stretch of baseball games. Bregman kind of provides that for this team. Is the other old head, I guess you would call him, that's not super old, but has been around for longer than some of the other guys, is Trevor Story, who
Yeah.
of course had that, Colorado playoff run or two, maybe. But Bregman gives the stability of like, hey guys, I have been here before. We are going to be okay. I think that's important for a team that's as young and inexperienced at this moment in time as Boston is. And I do think that's also part of the reason why they brought him in.
Yeah.
Is to give some of that stability. Let's go on here to the New York Yankees. They are the last team in the wild card. They are third place in the East because the Red Sox have gotten hot as of late, and they have been jumped by a couple of games, but they are still in a wild card spot. Who's your pick?
Obviously, low hanging fruit would say Aaron Judge because, like you mentioned earlier, like wherever Vladdy goes, the Toronto Blue Jays go. This one's easy, Aaron Judge, obviously, but I'm not gonna do that for the sake of conversation. So I do think the New York Yankees' most important player down the stretch is Max Fried. Maybe that's Braves bias. But I do think Max has been one of the MVPs for the New York Yankees this year. Obviously, coming over from my Atlanta Braves in the offseason, getting the bag to do it. Pitching's been solid for them, but it's really only been a two-headed monster with Fried and Rodon. Will Warren shown some flashes. Smith shown some flashes. Marcus Stroman's not been it. They've got other guys obviously kind of cycling through there too. But I think the offense is going to do what the offense does. Obviously, they are in ruts at times. You would like to see more out of Ryan McMahon. You would like to see more out of Jazz Chisholm. But at the end of the day, like Max Fried, I think is the X factor and maybe the most important player down the stretch here with how he pitches to keep this team in a wild card hunt, if not maybe chasing down the Blue Jays and Red Sox for the division.
Mine, I'm going to cheat a little bit. Sorry, it's my show. Deal with it, people. My player is going to be the back end of their bullpen. If they can't figure that out, I'm
All
speaking
four of them.
specifically about Devin Williams in this case. If they keep running Devin Williams out in those late inning games where it's close, he's 0 for 3 last week on that going well. Uh, Bednar, it was shaky at the start. It seems to be better now. Duvall, like the bullpen has to be able to hold a lead. I'm pretty confident the Yankees bats are going to be able to hit. Judge is going to ball out. You have Bellinger. You have guys in the lineup that are going to be fine and they're going to produce offense. But when you get into the late innings of games, you have to be able to hold them. And they added bullpen at the deadline, and it hasn't gone well for them at this point. So that is my X factor for the Yankees. In my opinion, at least. Let's move on to Tampa. Tampa is probably out of it. They're 4 games under 500. They're fourth place in the East. This is more about, I guess, development more than anything else. And I'm going to take that as the person in this case that I'm most excited to watch down the stretch, and that's going to be Junior Caminero. I think if you're a Rays fan, it's important that 22-year-old Junior Caminero just continues to hit and continues to rake, and that you just see a full solid season out of him. Like a full season, not an injury shortened season, not him kind of scuffling at the end. You would like for him just to continue strong. I think that's the most important thing for Tampa.
Yeah, so my pick for the Tampa Bay Rays has got to be Brandon Lau. He's already a star player in his own right. He's having a great season in terms of hitting 23 homers and batting 273. He's one of the guys on this Tampa Bay Rays team that makes the offense tick. But you look at where the Tampa Bay Rays are as an organization and what they've always been. They hold on to guys when they're controllable, and within a year or two of them being uncontrollable and being unrestricted free agents, they trade the guy off for maximum value, and then they restock the farm and then do the thing all over again with lateral-ish trade moves, like the last episode. So if you haven't seen it, go watch the last episode talking about a trade deadline. But I think Brandon Lau is in a position here where, or Brandon Lowe, whichever one you pronounce it as. I think he's in that spot there where he's someone that obviously is going to perform well. One of the better performing second basemen offensively in baseball right now, but was so close to the end of his controllable years in Tampa. I think his performance down the line might open up some offseason trade conversations to restock this Tampa team. And build it around Junior Caminero and build it around Chandler Simpson. But no, I mean, I think Brandon Lowe, being one of their star players currently and being close to the end of the contract, if he plays well, like the Tampa Bay Rays would be wanting him to, obviously they may not get back in the AL East or the AL wildcard hunt, but they also might have some good trade value for the offseason, if not this year or trade deadline next year. So that could continue to refresh this Tampa Bay system that seems to be a well-oiled machine on a low budget.
Yeah, I would agree. Our last place team here is the Baltimore Orioles. The season just hasn't gone well for them, obviously. But preseason, we thought they were going to be one of the contenders for the East, and it just hasn't quite played out that way. But that's okay because you still have that good young core with Adley and Gunnar. And my pick is Jackson Holliday for a lot of the same reasons as Junior Caminero. I think you would like to see him finish this season strong and not just kind of fizzle out. Not that he's been out of this world this year by any means, but you would kind of like to see him finish a full season, have a nice off season, and then come into spring training stronger than what he has been. And I do think a part of coming in stronger next year is going to be finishing well this year and on a high note. And I think that's going to be important for the Orioles long term, is getting production out of him.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback right off of you with a different player, but same conversation. I'd say Adley Rutschman. Adley has had a down year in many sorts. I mean, his OPS plus numbers aren't bad. They're right at or right above league average at a 101. But the batting average is extremely down. And if the batting average is down at a 235, you would expect to see more homers. Well, he's only got 9 homers, 27 RBIs, still had 325 plate appearances. So it's still one of the higher amount of plate appearances on the Baltimore Orioles. And he's a part of your core. Yeah, he's only played 80 games, so it is less than your Jackson Holliday, Gunnar Hendersons of the world. But he still contributed a lot despite some injuries this year, or I believe some injuries this year. But you got to see him really turn this thing around and finish the season on a hot note because he is one of your big pieces of that core. And with the offensive production you're seeing in Seattle with Cal Raleigh, Adley Rutschman's a player that can do the exact same thing. Maybe not at that level of power clip, especially playing in Baltimore. But Adley Rutschman's one of those offensive catchers that you should be able to put up against Cal Raleigh and not really know much of a difference between the two. So they've got to get more production out of Adley. Obviously, this is a year that just nothing went well for the Baltimore Orioles. But if they want to take that next step and really contend next year, obviously we talk about sweeping changes might need to be made with roster overhauls. But Adley Rutschman, as a huge part of this core, really needs to step up, and you need to see it down the stretch for the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah. Let's move on here to the Central. This is still the American League Central. And those of you that skipped this part of the video, welcome to your American League Central. This, obviously, we're starting with Detroit. They're in first place. They have a 6.5 game lead over the Guardians as we record this, although Cleveland is coming quick. But we'll talk about Cleveland in a minute before I go on my Cleveland rant. Detroit, one of the best teams in baseball for most of the year. I would feel comfortable saying, and I think Justin would echo, that they have overperformed quite a bit from what we thought, and Detroit fans may disagree and be like, we expected this the whole time, to which I would say, no, you didn't. But we are here now. Here's the thing. They got a bunch of things that have to continue to go right for them because I think they're overperforming. I think a few guys are in way over their heads. Skubal obviously is dominant. There's no question about that. Obviously, he is the most important player. But for the sake of conversation here, I think the guy, Kerry Carpenter, has to like comprehend baseball and really push this team over the top. Not that he hasn't, or Riley Green just has to like super turn it on. And again, he's been incredible, but if we could take a 124 WRC plus and push that to like a 130, 135, I think this team goes from like, oh, this is like kind of a fluke to like, oh, this is for real. I think it's like a whole team is important, but if you're going to pick one guy, I guess it's Riley Green, although there's a lot of guys that you could go down the rabbit hole of.
Yeah, Detroit's one of those teams that it's really Tariq Skubal and then a bunch of above average baseball players that are playing even better than what they typically would. So not to take the cop out of Tariq Skubal, because again, I think this team goes wherever Tariq Skubal goes. I think it's really got to be Riley Green. He's the offensive leader of this team. I mean, you've got Gleyber Torres there. I mean, you've got Spencer Torkelson, who's having a pretty good year. But at the end of the day, Riley Green is this offensive powerhouse. He is the guy that you trust the Detroit Tigers offense with. And so obviously he's having a good season. I mean, he's batting around 270. I mean, he's got 27 homers, 87 RBIs, an OPS plus of a 122. Like the stats are good. He's performing. But can this continue as the playoffs roll around? Can this team go deep in the postseason because of now some offense that they need to produce? We know pitching is going to be there. This team's one of the better pitching staffs because of Tariq Skubal in all of Major League Baseball. So Skubal is going to bring his A game. Obviously, you need to fill out the rotation with guys that are actually going to perform as well. I mean, Casey Mize has had a pretty good year. Everybody else has just kind of been like Jack Flaherty's not been amazing this year in his return. But yeah, this team needs offense, and Riley Green's going to have to be that guy that leads the charge there. So I would agree with you. Riley Green, most important player for the Tigers outside of Tariq Skubal.
Yeah, the second place team in that division is the Cleveland Guardians, who somehow have turned it around after they lost Class A. Somehow that, I guess, lit a fire under them. They're 8-2 in their last 10 as we record this. Are they a good team? I think we still don't know if they're a great team. They're a negative run differential, but they are a game out of a wild card spot. And to me, the answer is easy. We can pick another guy and pretend that it's an interesting conversation, but it's Jose Ramirez to me. The team goes as Jose goes, especially now with Classe out and all the other just stuff happening. I think Jose Ramirez has to be otherworldly for this team. Maybe not to make the playoffs, because I think that's still a very real possibility, but certainly to make a deep run. It kind of falls on Jose Ramirez and like Stephen Kwan, who we thought maybe they're going to trade, but they didn't. Those are like the two, but especially Jose Ramirez. You're the face of Cleveland, you're the star of Cleveland. It kind of is on him for the success, which maybe that's unfair and it's a lot to put on a guy, but that's where I think this roster is at currently, the way it's constructed.
Yeah, obviously, low hanging fruit would obviously be Jose Ramirez because he is the star of this team. He needs to go on a heater to for this team to have a chance at winning in the postseason or even getting to the postseason for that matter. But I'm going to throw it on a whole staff. I think this very young pitching staff of the Cleveland Guardians is something that you need to be looking at. It's a bunch of young guys, 25, 26 year olds like Bybee, Williams, Allen, Saccone. Ben Lively's also a little older, but he's in the staff as well. Like you've got a bunch of young guys that are hovering around basically a league average ERA, other than Gavin Williams with that almost no hitter he had just the other night.
Yeah.
But these are all young guys that, again, Cleveland will have for a little bit of time, and they're going to develop into a pretty solid pitching staff. But Jose Ramirez is going to do his thing. Stephen Kwan's going to get on base. You would like to see this lineup produce a little more offensively, but the Guardians have their own kind of magic way of making some stuff happen with some lower level or lower caliber players. So I really do think this entire pitching staff as a whole needs to obviously perform as some have been performing, but take that next step up if you really want to contend in the playoffs. And I'm really looking at Tanner Bybee as an individual because it's been okay, but it's not been great if you're the de facto number one. And yeah, I mean, you need this pitching staff as a whole to take that next step or that next leap. And I'm not sure you can trust 25 and 26-year-olds with a year or two of big league service time to do that if your whole rotation's that.
Yeah. Our next team here is going to be the third place, one game below 500, Kansas City Royals. They are probably out of it, but they're only 4 games out of a wild card spot. They're right on the cusp of it being possible or not, I guess, if you're real optimistic about it. I kind of think it's over for them if we're all real honest with ourselves. I don't think they could get hot, but they have a lot of teams to jump in that wild card in the American League. My guy for them, he got cleared to start a rehab assignment yesterday. Again, it's Jack Caglione. I think if you're a Rays fan and he's playing, he's one of the reasons you're flipping it on. It's him and Bobby Witt, but you kind of know what you have out of Bobby Witt. You don't fully know what you have at this point out of Caglione. He's had an okay, I would say, start to his career in the big leagues. It hasn't been phenomenal by any stretch, but he's just getting his feet wet. I don't think anybody thought he was going to come up and set the world on fire. And if you're Kansas City right now, you don't need him to, but you would certainly like for him to be hitting better than 147 as a batting average. So he would be the important one to me, whether that's in the big leagues or if they just stash him in AAA for the rest of the year, let him see at bats against non-major league talent.
Yeah, absolutely. This is where we'll agree here. I mean, you know what you have with Bobby Witt Jr. You know what you have with Michael Garcia, who's still controllable for a little bit. You know what Salvi's going to bring to the table. You know what Vinny Pasquantino's doing, even though there are questions with Vinny Pasquantino. He's still at least controllable, so he's probably going to hang around in Kansas City for a little bit longer. But yeah, Jack Caglione, I mean, obviously coming off an injury and rehab assignments now. The first taste of the big leagues was not very good at all, with some flashes, like he's played well at times, but overall it's not been well. But I do think down the stretch, you want to see more offensive consistency and really some defensive consistency too. Just thinking through Jack Caglione playing left field or right field, wherever he's been playing out there for Kansas City, there's been some like Jerks and Profar level fielding out there that comes to my mind. So needs a little bit better defensive production, so you don't automatically want to go throw him either at first or go play DH if Pasquantino, the Sasquatch or Pasquatch or whatever he is,
Yeah.
ends up staying around longer. But yeah, Jack Caglione, very high prospect pedigree. You got to see him really learn on the fly in a second attempt after the injury, and we'll see how he responds to that. And obviously, he'll be a huge part of this Kansas City Royals future.
Let's talk about a team that fire sailed everything at the deadline. That is your Minnesota Twins. They are the fourth place team in the division. They are ahead of only the White Sox. They salary dumped a lot of guys, basically their entire roster outside of a few people. So the franchise as a whole, I think, is in an interesting spot, but I think that's also a conversation maybe for a different episode, maybe an off-season episode. As far as players right now that are going to be important to me down the stretch, there's a couple I would like to cite. Royce Lewis. He's back. He's been spotty at best in his career. I would like to see more out of him. That's probably the guy, if we're honest, that's the answer hitting wise. I think for me, though, I would like to see what Cody Clemens actually brings to the table at first base. Is he an actual major league bat, or is he like a quadruple A guy that's going to be up and down and a bench guy? I think right now, as bad as it seems, you are kind of in a position where you're able to give some of these younger guys longer leashes to see what they actually have. And I think if you're Minnesota, you need to take advantage of that. The guy that I would look to in this case, to me, is Cody Clemens. He showed good stuff in college at the University of Texas. That's part of the reason why I'm picking him. Hook 'em horns. Uh, but I don't know. I'd just like to see what they have out of him and some of the other young guys, obviously like Keishel and Brooks Lee and Larnack and Wallner, all of them, but Clemens specifically for me.
Okay, well, I'm kind of in your same vein, but I'm going to kind of take a cop out and go two different guys. So I'm going to go with Royce Lewis and Brooks Lee, but again, for the same kind of thought as you. Like those Brooks Lee and Royce Lewis are kind of the next generation of stars for the Minnesota Twins, and both have not really performed well up at the big league level, both batting around 240. Obviously, Royce Lewis has had so many injury concerns so early on in his baseball career. He's looked so promising at times. And he is the guy that I think Minnesota really builds around moving forward. Like Byron Buxton has been shopped at the deadline, wasn't moved, surprisingly, compared to everybody else, but that was more Buxton waiving the no trade clause. So, but with the Mets and the Braves and some other teams checking in on him, there might be a trade in the offseason that then the Mets or Braves get Byron, and then Buxton ends up somewhere else, and the Twins get out of get out of whatever the deal or whatever it is that he's left owed, and they can help use that money to start paying down the $440 million of debt that they're in. So Royce Lewis and Brooks Lee are definitely two guys that you need to see step up because that is the future. Cody Clemens would obviously be in that future as well. Keishel would be another one. But Joe Ryan, I think, is another kind of easy answer as well, because he's in the same boat as Byron Buxton. You know what you're going to get from Buxton. You know what you're going to get from Joe Ryan. But both of those guys are probably going to be huge offseason trade pieces. So you got to see how they perform down the stretch and what their trade value is going into the offseason. And that's going to help the Twins clear some more books. So if you're looking to the future, those two position players. If you're looking for trades, Buxton and Joe Ryan, and just enjoy the time that you have left with them because I don't think you have too many more days.
Yeah, I do think like Buxton coming out and saying he wants to be a Twins lifer, I do think still has some merit. I also see the other side of that argument, I guess where you're coming from, of like he said that before they traded everybody. So I don't know how much he still believes in that, but maybe he does. I guess Twins fans let us know. Let's go to the last place team here quickly with the White Sox. There's a couple of guys, Colson Montgomery, obviously. My most important guy for them is actually going to be Luis Robert, because I don't know how he didn't get traded at the deadline, but I have to think almost certainly he's going to get traded in the offseason. And I have to think they didn't trade him at the deadline because they're going to try to trade him in the offseason and they're just hoping it goes better in the last month and a half or two to boost the stock a little bit and be like, see, it is still there ish. So he's my guy. I think he has. They're kind of hoping he balls out. I think I have to think he's gone at some point in his career. I don't think he's going to be a White Sox lifer, but maybe he is. But that's the guy I think he's the most important guy for the White Sox down the stretch to try to get some guys back to start rebuilding under new ownership.
Yeah, that's a good pick. But I'm gonna go the pitching route for this one. And again, taking another cop out because I think two guys are almost identical. But Sean Burke and Shane Smith. I think both guys are very promising arms in this White Sox rotation for the now and the future. And you really got to see how they continue to develop against big league talent. They're both 24 or they're both 25 years old, hovering around the same ERA. They're both similar makeup type pitchers. And they're both guys that I think could kind of take this other young core of like Kyle Teal and Edgar Caro and the other guys that are coming up, like the Colson Montgomerys, with this White Sox staff that is actually having some talent on their roster for once. So I do think pitching, again, if for the playoff teams and even the teams that are not going to make the playoffs and they're looking at a 3 to 5 year rebuild, like young pitching is going to be something that is absolutely imperative for a team like this to have. And if those guys take a step forward now and they bring that into 2026, the White Sox, again, probably still won't be a playoff team. But with the new ownership, they might spend some more money, and you never know. Some young guys can make some things happen and give some invigoration to a team, and you end up maybe outperforming themselves a little bit. So Shane Smith and Sean Burke, I think, need to continue to take that next step because their arms are so great and so talented. And you got to see what they have.
Our last division is the American League West, and the team leading that currently is the 67 and 52 as we record this Houston Astros. They are one game up on Seattle, who is coming in hot. But again, not going to go on my Mariners rant quite yet. We have to talk about the Astros first, as much as that pains me. And I think the most important guy on the team for Houston, there's a lot of different ways that you could go. Is it Correa, the guy they just added to add some stability now that Paredes is out for a while? Is it Pena coming back from injury? Is it some of the outfield? What are we going to get out of Jordan? All of those, I think, are great questions. To me, I think it has to be the pitching. It like 2 hours ago I would have said Josh Hader, but now that he's injured, I don't know. So we're audibling a little bit. We're still gonna go pitching. I think Hunter Brown has to just be a shutdown number two for them. He just has to be for them to like actually make a deep run. We talked about pitching wins championships. Hunter Brown is a damn good pitcher, obviously. He has to just continue that. Like they have to have a guy behind Framber that is able to be like a game two starter in a playoff series because right now I'm looking at it and at least just based on names, as far as people I feel comfortable with, there's not a lot behind Framber just on name value alone. And I think Hunter Brown has the opportunity to prove that, but he's got to prove that. I think that's going to be important for Houston.
Yeah, pitching is going to be very important for Houston, but luckily for me, I actually trust that Houston's pitching will be fine in the postseason. And so my most important player is Jordan Alvarez. He at some point he will be coming back from injury. When he has played, it's not been good. This offense as a whole has been pretty solid. I mean, all the batting averages look fairly good. I mean, good home run tallies for most of the guys that have played most of the year. So Jordan Alvarez obviously continues to extend that lineup and make that lineup more dangerous. Carlos Correa has been added. He's hitting 390 since joining the Houston Astros or since rejoining the Houston Astros. Jose Altuve's still there. Jeremy Pena's hitting really well. So Jordan Alvarez can give you that lefty power that you really need in Houston. Obviously, your righties will hit to the Crawford boxes and have that kind of access help to allow their offense and power numbers to be a little better. But when you can have Jordan Alvarez in that lineup in a postseason series, it makes that lineup even more scary for the pitcher across the mound there, or on the mound facing you. So Jordan Alvarez has to come back and hit better than 210. And if he is going to hit at least 230, you got to start seeing the home run numbers and the RBI totals come up. Obviously, it's really only been, 29 games, 121 plate appearances, and 3 home runs. That wasn't a great clip to play just for 29 games, but for the last maybe 20 games you get out of him, you need at least double or triple the amount of homers, and he needs to really get hot and head on into the postseason, because I think Houston will need some more offensive firepower come postseason.
Yeah, I think that's a big reason they traded for Correa as well, just to kind of bolster that lineup. Obviously, with Paredes being out, it's kind of a match made in heaven, but Jordan coming back is going to be massive, massive for them when that happens. And of course, you're hoping, if you're a Houston fan, that he sets the world on fire when he comes back, as we know that he's capable of doing because he's shown it so often. Let's move on to Seattle. They are a game back. They are 9-1 in their last 10. Miraculously, somehow, they have really turned it on. They are just a game out of the AL West lead. They're quite comfortably currently in a wild card spot. Feels like they are a playoff team. Knock on wood. Hope I'm not jinxing that. They have a lot of bats that need to perform. Cal Raleigh has to continue on his pace. Naylor has to be good. Suarez has to be good. The one that I look to that just has to turn it on and just not look back, and he has shown flashes lately of it, is Julio Rodriguez. I think Cal Raleigh he's going to set the catcher home run record, barring an injury here in the next 2 or 3 weeks. That's not really a question at this point. Suarez is going to hit. Naylor is going to hit. To me, it's behind those three. What else do we have? Because if you're in like a 3 game series and a wild card series against the Mariners, you can kind of strategize and pitch around those guys to an extent, and you need another bat somewhere in the lineup that at least makes you honor considering pitching to Suarez or Raleigh or any of the other guys or Rosarena, any of those guys. To me, that's Julio Rodriguez. That would have sounded crazy a couple of years ago because you'd be like, obviously, he's one of the best bats on the team. He's only like 15% above league average hitting wise currently. To me, it's him. It kind of lives and dies with Julio Rodriguez. If you're going to make a deep run, you can make an argument for pitching. I think Seattle's pitching, because I've seen it so much as a Ranger fan, is going to figure it out and be okay. It's Julio Rodriguez to me.
Yeah, Julio Rodriguez is a really good pick, but I'm going to take the opposite route there. I'm going to go pitching. I do think they are very good. We know Seattle to be a very good pitching ball club. One, because the ballpark. Two, because they just have some amazing arms on that staff, and they've got about 5 or 6 of them. But I think one in particular really needs to take that next step. And I mean, he's performed well in the past, and he's performing okay this year, but he needs to take that step up to performing really well again if this team really wants to win in the postseason, and that's Logan Gilbert. Logan Gilbert's got a 3.35 ERA, which is good, but it just seems to be just, I don't know. It feels a little off for Logan Gilbert. Like, he'll have one really, really good outing where he like strikes out the world and goes like 7 shutout innings, and then another one he'll go 4 and give up 5. So it's one of those that you need to see more consistency out of Logan Gilbert. Brian Wu is amazing right now. Castillo is pitching really well. Obviously, you have Bryce Miller that'll be coming off an injury here pretty soon. That could maybe start to turn it on and get back in there. George Kirby's obviously another guy in that rotation that's really good. But Logan Gilbert is one of those guys that really should be the number one of this team. So the Seattle Mariners really need Logan Gilbert to take that next step up and truly be the ace of the Seattle Mariners, because Cal Raleigh's going to mash. I think Julio Rodriguez is okay in that lineup. I think Suarez and Naylor are going to continue to mash. Like, you have offensive firepower. Jorge Polanco's still there hitting around pretty well. So you've got guys in that offense in a nice offensive year. Pitching wins playoff games, though. So Logan Gilbert's really got to take that status up to become an ace pitcher.
Yeah. Let's move on to my neck of the woods, the Texas Rangers. They are 2.5 out of a wild card spot at the time of this recording. It has not gone well in their last 10. They just got swept by Philly. They stole a couple from the Yankees. I'll cite the Yankees bullpen problems again. They are 2 games above 500. Everybody knew they were going to add a bat at the deadline, and instead they added more pitching to the best pitching in baseball. So my role player here, it's got to be a bat. And I honestly, it's going to be, there's a lot of options, obviously. I think Josh Young. I think if Josh Young stays hot, it adds a righty bat that they so desperately need and don't really have right now outside of nobody. Kyle Higashioka has been the best right-handed hitter for us. That's a scary sentence to say, but if Josh Young can stay hot, there's a shot. But if he doesn't, I don't think we make the playoffs. Wyatt Langford is going to do what Wyatt Langford does. Adolis, I think we kind of know what he is. Seager, obviously, Semien, all the people. I think it kind of lives and dies with Josh Young, which is our 7-hole hitter right now. He has to produce at a higher clip than what he did early, and he's shown signs of doing that the last couple of weeks, but it just has to continue or there is just no shot, I don't think.
Yeah, now I don't watch the Rangers every single night like you do, but I do have Wyatt Langford on my fantasy team, and that is my pick. I think Wyatt Langford has a lot of boom potential and has been pretty busty at times too. So I do think even though his WAR number is really good, I do think he's producing offensively overall. Like I do think Wyatt Langford really needs to be that spark plug in this team to get this offense rolling. Like with you know how good he can be, and you need to see him take that next step up of being a superstar player along with the Simeons and Seagers. And Simeon's not even playing well right now. The pitching's good between DeGrom and Eovaldi. The pitching staff is one that a lot of teams will fear going into a 3-game series in the wild card round. So if you
Yep.
get in the dance and this offense starts performing because a Wyatt Langford gets hot, this team could go on a run like they did in 23 again. They're just kind of a sleeping giant awaiting to be awakened. And they got to get in the postseason to have that happen. And they got to have a guy like Wyatt Langford mashing even better than he's been. And so that's why I think he's the most important player going down the stretch for the Texas Rangers.
Let's move on to our friends out west, and the LA Angels. They're in fourth place. Their season effectively over at this point, at least as far as playoffs go. My guy for them, I guess the reason that you wake up in the morning and you turn on the TV for them right now is Zach Neto. So I would like to see Neto finish out strong, finish the year. It kind of seems like it's trending to where he's the like long-term shortstop of the future, and that feels like pretty set in stone. It feels like he's got a 121 WRC plus at this point in time. He's had a nice year for them, and I guess for me, I would just like to see him finish that out really well. He's a little bit better than he was in 2024. I would like for him to finish this total season still better than he was in 2024.
Yeah, my most important player for the Los Angeles Angels was the former best player in Major League Baseball. And he's run into a really rough patch. And this might be low hanging fruit, but Mike Trout. We haven't said the name in a while. He's
Yeah.
not performing amazingly. It's kind of been strikeout or homer for Mike Trout, or at least what I've seen this year from our old buddy out in LA. Like it's starting to question is father time starting to catch up with him. He's had the injuries year and year and year. It's difficult to say like has Mike Trout crossed over this line to where he's like not the player he used to be. And so obviously he's one of the greatest players we've ever seen play the game. But at the same time, this feels like he's starting to fall off a cliff. And the biggest question for probably the most important player on that team is can he return to form? Can he stay healthy? And can this team actually win around him? Or is it time to pack up and head to Philadelphia and go to his favorite team in his hometown?
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting for the Angels. It's going to be an interesting offseason for the Angels, I suppose. We have
And
one more.
side note, I do know Mike Trout is from New Jersey, but he's on the Philadelphia Phillies fandom side of New Jersey, so that's why I said hometown commenters.
We got one team left here, and it is your Sacramento Athletics. They are in dead last in the American League, but some would argue that they've actually overperformed somehow behind the likes of Jacob Wilson. Kurtz is having a pretty crazy rookie year, despite that not being a full season rookie year. They're playing in a AAA ballpark. Shea Langoliers is having a nice breakout season. There is a lot of bright spots for the A's. They've made some trades at the deadline to even further push that the future could be good. I guess for me, if you had asked me a couple of weeks ago, it would have been how high can Severino boost his stock before the offseason so that you can move him since he evidently hates it there. But now he's injured, so I can't pick that. I think it's what is Jacob Wilson when he comes back from injury? Because he's out currently. It seems like he's trending to be back for the last at least 3 or 4 weeks of the season. He still is probably a couple weeks away, is what it's looking like right now. Is he truly the like 320 hitter that we were seeing before with the slowest bat speed in the league, but the highest contact rate that doesn't hit homers but doesn't walk? Is he just is he that guy, or was that part a fluke, and what's he going to be after injury? I think that is, to me, the most important question and the most important player for the A's to kind of figure out. Is that actually the shortstop of the future, or did he just have a pretty crazy first 4 months of his career?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jacob Wilson's the easy pick there because you want to see how he comes back from injury. But for the sake of choosing somebody different, I will be different. Shea Langolier is having a great bounce back or having a great breakout season. Nick Kurtz, obviously, I think is someone who will stay around that you hope doesn't have a sophomore slump. Brent Rooker is going to continue to be Brent Rooker. I think this is a really good core that the Oakland Athletics, or oh, there you go, I said it, money in the swear jar.
Yeah.
The Athletics have. But one piece of that core that's not had a good year that I thought would take a step up to become a star player in baseball is Lawrence Butler. He's batting 230 right now. He's hitting 15 homers and I mean hitting 25 doubles. So I mean it's okay production, but Lawrence Butler feels like a 260 hitter to me. He's got the makeup of doing it. The fielding's okay, but he's just not taking that next step up of being the kind of star player that he was kind of touted to be. So for me, Lawrence Butler, I think is one that you really got to see. Is he a part of this core, or is he the next Atlanta Braves trade deadline?
Yep. So that is every single American League's team's, wow, that's a mouthful, most important player down the stretch. I guess let us know, how did we do? Did we nail your team, or do we not know ball? Because both feel fully possible. I will not lie to you. If you made it to this part of the video, Justin's going to give you a player to comment right now.
All right. Because he's killing my fantasy team right now, go ahead and comment Spencer Strider. I know this is an American League video, but I'm just getting notifications of Spencer Strider blowing stuff. So, Spencer Strider.
Spencer Strider, blowing games, blowing dudes. We'll catch y'all in the next one for the National League version of this video here in probably a couple of days, but we'll see. So we'll see y'all later.